One of my absolute favorite protocols right now is what's called Grape Finance. Now, Grape Finance is a relatively new financial product, you want to call it, I guess, on what's called the Avalanche Network. The Avalanche Network is part of, if you ever heard of the token AVAX, that's part of it. The cool thing about Grape Finance is that it's one of these rare projects that moves a little bit independent of Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? Because if we look at the prices of assets like Bitcoin, usually whatever happens to Bitcoin, everything else follows, right? If Bitcoin is doing well, all the other coins are doing good. If Ethereum is doing good, that means Bitcoin is doing good, meaning everything else is doing good. If Bitcoin is doing bad, everything else is doing bad, right? So Grape Finance is a little bit different in that it doesn't necessarily follow the market in 100%. The reason why, and you could read it here, is that Grape Finance is what they called a pegged token to MIM. MIM stands for Magic Internet Money. I know it sounds funny, but it's a stable coin that is pegged to the US dollar, or right about the US dollar. It's like a little, sometimes it's like 0.999986, but right about a dollar, to help reduce your volatility during market downtrends. Grape is an algorithmic stablecoin designed to maintain a one-to-one peg to MIM. What this means exactly is just that the Grape token, which Grape Finance utilizes, is pegged to MIM, or Magic Internet Money, a stablecoin that its goal is to try to maintain a relationship of one-to-one, meaning that they both, Grape and MIM, should stay close to one-to-one. MIM is pretty much always one-to-one at this point. It's a very established token, whereas Grape is still growing, but part of the protocol is to maintain that relationship. It's to maintain that one-to-one relationship. So part of Grape Finance is that you could see here, and for right now, we are going to ignore this section which says G bonds. We're not going to talk about G bonds. We're going to sort of ignore this section for right now. We're only going to concentrate on these two. So Grape token has what's called two tokens, Grape and Wine. Grape, like I mentioned, is a token that is pegged one-to-one in value to MIM, or it tries to stay close. If you could see the price right now, you'll see that the price is under peg. We'll talk about that later. Just know that it tries to maintain a one-to-one connection to it. Owning Wine is it's like ownership of the protocol. So owning Wine is like owning a stock of Apple. You own a share of the ownership of that company. So if you own Apple stocks, you own a share of the company and therefore a share of their profits. Wine is the same thing. If you own Wine, you own a portion of the protocol in this case. And therefore you're entitled to a share of the profits of the protocol. Grape, token that's pegged to the US dollar through MIM. Wine is a share of ownership of the protocol. Awesome. In Grape Finance, there are three main mechanisms that make Grape Finance work. The first mechanism is what's called the vineyard. And in the vineyard, what you do is, here's that famous word, you stake tokens to earn wine. Very basically, and by the way, you see this thing called LPs before I move on. LPs is this. LP is a liquidity provider token. LP is a token that is created and awarded to a user that deposits assets into a liquidity pool. They represent ownership of a share of a liquidity pool. LP tokens can usually be transferred, exchanged, and staked. In other words, in very simple, basic English, it means that you provided what's called liquidity, meaning that you, for example, this example that I have here, if you have a liquidity token of USDC, which is a stable coin, and AVAX, which is an unstable coin, the LP contains a 50% value of USDC and a 50% value of AVAX. So I did some math for you guys before you got in here, and it's if you have $100 worth of USD, that is the equivalent of 4.11184, that long number of AVAX. This is worth $100. This is worth $100. If you put them together into USDC-AVAX LP, you now have what's called a liquidity pair token that's worth $200. It just means that you provided liquidity. For money to move around, you need to be able to make sure that there's equal money on the other side, right? So for example, if you wanted to take your US dollars and take them to Canada for Canadian dollars, there needs to be some form of exchange that allows that to be facilitated. LPs, or liquidity provider tokens, LP tokens, allow you to do that, right? If there's 100 AVAX tokens, there should be equal value of USDC on the other side so that people can exchange. So what you do in Grape is that you are going to take your Grape tokens, which you bought on the market. You're going to pair it up with a stable coin, in this case, Grape MIM. So you're going to have a Grape MIM LP token. And what you're going to do is you're going to provide it into the protocol here in the vineyard. And in exchange for you doing that, in exchange for you to stake your tokens, you're going to be earning wine. So in other words, you come in here, you put your Grape MIM LP token, you're going to be paid out a yearly APR of 115%, 0.01, which equates to about 0.32% daily. That's going to be paid out to you in wine. Now that seems kind of crazy. You're like, wait, how can they possibly pay you out that huge APR? Because it's insane, right? A bank only gives you a 1% APY yearly, less than that. If you have your money, it's in a savings account. How are they able to do this? Well, they're able to do this because it's all about share of the pie, right? And part of that is if you're putting your money, you're staking your money, you're locking it up so that, not locking it up, I don't want to use the word locking up, but you're staking their money so that other people can exchange and be able to utilize the protocol, right? You're going to be earning a kickback for that, right? You're going to be earning the profits, which are the fees that are paid out to utilize the protocol. You're going to be paid out some of those fees in a share of the company, right? We established that if you own wine, you own a share of the protocol. So in this case, you're going to earn wine. Does everybody follow me with that so far? And I'm trying to make my absolute best to explain it to you guys in the best possible way, because these can be very complicated concepts when we don't really are exposed to this constantly. So because you're earning your money, you're going to be earning wine. That's mechanism number one. Mechanism number two is what's called the winery. What does a winery do? Is you stake your wine to earn grapes. So why would this be the case, right? Why would you want to stake your wine to earn grapes? Well, the reason why is that when you stake your wine, you're not selling it in the open market. You're not selling that asset in the open market. And instead, by you locking it up in the winery, you are being rewarded for removing your wine from the open market, your wine token, should I say, right? Wine sounds so, hey, I removed my wine. What, you're selling wine bottles? No, I'm selling my wine token, right? You remove your wine token from the market, and in exchange, you're going to get grapes. That is mechanism number two. I'm not going to go too much further than that because I will confuse the heck out of you as to why you would do this. We're going to talk about that in the strategy sections of this, okay? So you come in here, you stake your wine, and in exchange, you're going to get paid out in grapes. So that's mechanism number two. Then you have what's called mechanism number three. Mechanism number three is our nodes. Here, what you do is you buy a node and lock the supply. So you buy the node, you don't sell it, and you're going to earn daily returns. what that does is that if you buy a grape node, so you pay, I believe grapes right now is like one grape node is worth 50 grapes. So roughly speaking, $48, right? So if we view, see here, 50 grapes. So the node cost is $43. And what this does is that when you buy a grape node, you basically lose your initial $50 that you paid or $48 that you paid. You don't get that back. But in exchange, over the next year, roughly speaking, you're going to be paid out 0.95% daily. And that is variable, so it could go up to 3.5% daily in Grape. So you're going to be paid out basically anywhere between 1.5 and 3.5 when everything's looking good daily interest for just holding Grape. That is mechanism number 3. All right, so we have mechanism number 1, the vineyard, where you stake your grape or your tokens to earn wine. Mechanism number 2, where you stake your wine to earn grapes. And then mechanism number 3, where you buy a node, and in exchange for buying a node and basically burning 50 grapes, you are rewarded with the promise of over the next year, you're going to be paid out, roughly speaking, about 0.95% daily, or what's the equivalent of 345 100% APR over the next year. So those are the 3 mechanisms of Grape. Everybody follow me so far? What is best order to start with nodes? What is the best order to start with nodes? That's a great question, Glenda. And that's where I'm going to go with strategy number 3, because it's all going to depend on a very, very crucial aspect of Grape. All right, so we're going to go back over here to Grape. And the reason why I say that is because part of the reason why Grape exists is to maintain this value between 1-to-1 peg of Grape and MIM. If it's at any time that the value of Grape is under $1, you're going to change your strategy based on that. So I'm going to write down here. Hopefully everybody gets still see my screen that I'm sharing. Yes, so you guys could see my little notepad here. So there's this thing called TWA. You don't have to know exactly what TWA is, but TWA means time weighted average. In layman's term, this is, so TWA of under $1. There are 3 strategies, and they depend on what the TWA is. So time weighted average, there's 3 strategies that we talked about. We have under $1, over $1. So actually, let's do between $1 and $8.99, and TWA over $2. So the strategies are broken down into 3 main categories: under $1, between $1 and $1.99, and over $2. Because the idea behind this is to maintain the price of Grape as close to $1 as possible, you're going to apply different strategies based on the TWA. Right now, if we look at the TWA up here, we are at 0.86 cents and 40. Meaning that in this case, we're going to apply strategies for under $1. The best strategy to apply during under $1 is you want to buy grapes and hold them. Now you might say like, well, what's the point of buying something that is, 86 cents? How do I know that's going to go up in value, etc.? Well, part of the strategy behind this is that when you're buying grapes at under $1, and everybody hopefully works together to apply the strategy correctly, because you're removing those grapes from the open market, it's supply and demand. If there's less supply, the value naturally will go up. So the idea with a TWA under $1 is that you're going to be buying grapes at a cheaper price so that when the price goes up over $1, you will profit. Now, there are some caveats to that because you don't want to immediately sell when it's over $1. You can if you want to, it's up to you, but part of the strategy is not to do that. So under TWA means you're going to buy or remove grapes from the market. So you generally speaking, if TWA is under $1, you're going to be buying grape. You can buy a node, right? It's going to be cheaper for you to buy a node, but when you own a node, you create more tokens, all right? Because they have to pay you, you have to get paid out 0.95. So the protocol needs to make more grapes for you to get paid out. So for the healthiness of the market, of the protocol, you want to start off by buying grapes. All right, everybody follow me with that? So you buy grapes first. That is when price is under $1. When price is between $1 and $1.99, what you're going to do is you're going to go to the vineyard and you're going to stake your grape mims, and then you're going to go to the wine and you're going to stake your wine. The reason why you're going to want to do this is because now if the price of the token is over $1, right, you're going to want to make more grape and earn more wine. Now, you might think to yourself, well, that's counterintuitive. If we're making more, the price is going to go down. The reason why it doesn't, or it's not affected as much, is because part of the strategy for between $1 and $1.99 is that the rewards that you get, you're not going to sell them. You're going to keep them a little bit longer than normal. The reason why is because the longer you keep it, the value of the protocol goes up. Because now people are going to say like, hey, if you get paid out 2.2% daily APR for staking your wine, and you're getting that in dollar value in grapes that are practically worth $1 or more than $1, that makes the protocol more valuable. Therefore, the price of wine, the share of the protocol, goes up. Perfect. So you want to keep your grapes as long as possible. You want to hold them until the price, I see here that I wrote TWA. You want to hold them until the price goes over maybe $1.50 or as close to $2 as possible. Why would you want to do that? Because once the price of the token goes over $2, now is when you start to sell your tokens little by little. You start taking profit. The reason why you're going to do it little by little is because now you don't want to oversaturate the market, but you want to do it little by little. So yeah, you take profits along the way. And because you bought, if you do it now, right, if you enter the market now, because if you bought at under $1, everything else is profit. And if you've been staking your wine and making more grapes, you now have more grapes than you had before. Now you're going to say to me like, well, if you're staking wine and the price is so cheap, right? Isn't that counterintuitive? No, because the cool thing about this project is that if the price of the token is under $1, there's no payouts in the winery, right? So you're not making more tokens, because the idea is that it's going to incentivize you to remove those tokens from the market and wait until the price goes up to re-engage with the protocol. Does that make sense for everybody? I want you guys to put a 1, and if you have any questions, do that in the chat now. In this next part, I am going to show you a calculator that calculates all of this, and it's going to tell you what, give or take, your profit value would be if you were to do this strategy. And then after that, we're going to do a quick sort of wraparound, and then we'll end this session, because I know I've gone already for about an hour or so, so I don't want to fried everybody's brain here. This is a lot that's going on. Awesome. So we're getting 1s. Perfect. Awesome. I'm glad that you guys are understanding. I'm trying to go to a place that makes sense. I see a couple hands. Good. Yes. Awesome. All right. So let's put numbers to this, because everything I just said makes awesome, but if we don't know what the numbers are, then it makes no sense. So let's put in some numbers to this. So here we have what's called a Grape Finance calculator. Now this calculator, I already sort of put in some numbers in here ahead of time. So ignore this one, this side for right now. Let's focus on this farm calculator right here. So in this farm calculator, I want you to ignore all the green for right now. We're only going to be changing the blue. All right, so our token name is Grape. Our second token is MIM, or Magic Internet Money. Let's imagine that we decide to invest $1,000 into a farm in Grape Finance. Our daily ROI is 0.3%. Where did I get that from? So if we go back to Grape Finance and we go back to the vineyard, we're going to imagine that we're joining this one. It's actually gone up to 0.31%. So we're going to make that change in our calculator. We're going to put here 0.31. The initial price of Grape Finance is 87 cents. Let's see if it's still the same when I wrote it. So it's 86.4. So it's going to average it up to 87 because of how the calculator works. Initial price $1 because MIM never changes from $1. Let's imagine that the potential future value of Grape goes up to $1.05. The future value of MIM doesn't change. It stays the same. If no other value changes over the next 30 days, let's do 15 days so you guys can see a little bit better. Let's do 15 days. So if we put in $1,000 over the next 15 days, we would have made $153.65. Doing absolutely nothing other than sitting here and waiting for the price of Grape to go up. Now, let's imagine that the price of Grape doesn't go up by $1.05. Let's imagine that it goes up to 90 cents. More reasonable, 15 days, right? Look at that. You made $68. Now that seems like a little bit. You're like, Nick or Hamilton, well, $68. What am I going to do with $68? That's perfectly fine. That's over 60. That's only 15 days out, right? Days out. Let's imagine that you're in the farm for 50 days, right? With the price only going up 3 cents. Over 50 days, a lot could happen. Over 50 days, the price of Grape could easily go up to $1.50. Now we're talking. Look at our profit or loss. This is positive, so it's 536%. Now, I'm not doing anything different to this. This is a calculator. I'm just simply plugging in the numbers that are given to me right now at the current rate of Grape Finance. That's all we're doing. We're plugging in numbers. Now, why is this important to do when you're investing? It's because you want to know exactly how much you're going to invest and then have a target as to when you're going to pull out. Let's say you only do $500. You're like, you know, Hamilton, I only want to do, you know, $500. Great. Let's say we're in for just 30 days. Awesome. Let's imagine that the price only goes up to $1.05. Great. For $500 over the next 30 days, you made $104 doing absolutely nothing. Let's say you're even more risk averse. You're like, hey, you know what? I have, you know, I don't know, I just came across some family money. I now have a $10,000 that I want to invest in this. Over the next 30 days, if the price of Grape only goes up to $105, or not $105, well, it goes only, sorry, I wish it goes up to $105, right? It goes up to $1.05, boom. Over the next 30 days, you made $2,084. That's insane. That's with a daily ROI of 0.31. Now, this daily ROI right now, it's actually a little bit lower than normal. Usually it's somewhere around like something like this, like 0.5. It's going to vary. It's a variable APR, so it changes day to day. But for the most part, it's pretty stable. If it fluctuates like 0.10 points, it's not a big deal. But it doesn't have a lot of fluctuation. So you could expect to see something like, you know, 34 or even a daily payout of 31 like we were having now. So assuming that you invested $10,000 at current prices, the future price of Grape goes up to $1.05 over the next 30 days. You have a interest earned. Well, the interest earned is based on lending out your tokens or putting them in the protocol, but essentially you've gained $2,000 from this. So now your future value is $12,084. If you're just holding Grape, not doing anything else, you weren't farming it, look at the difference. You've only would have made, the difference is only $1,000. So that's a big difference. $1,000 is a big difference over the next 30 days, right? Let's say you don't want to do $10,000 over a whole 30 days. You want to do it for 15 days. Look, now again, you don't have to do this with $10,000. I'm just giving you an example. You could do this with, well, do you want to do it with $10? That's up to you. I mean, gas fees, right? You could do this with $150. You could start out small and play with it. So it's completely up to you. Now, let's go over to the boardroom. Before I move on, did everybody understand this? Did everybody see this? Is everybody cool with this? Does anybody have a question about this? Type 1 in the chat if everybody is okay with it, so we could sort of move on and go on to the next part, and then we'll sort of start closing off on this. Now, questions 1, awesome, Daniel, great. Perfect. All right, so this is an awesome calculator. I absolutely love this calculator. It has helped me so much to plan out my future investments with Grape and my current investment to see where more or less what could I expect. Now let's move on to the boardroom. So the boardroom is just another word for the winery. Let's go over to the winery. If we're looking at the winery, so once it's over a TWA of $1.01, it'll start paying out again. So let's use the numbers that they had before. The APR on the winery was 801% APR, so 2.2% daily, 2.24% daily. At current price of wine is $112. So let's just round that up to $112. With an APR of, what did we say the APR was? The APR was 108. Let's go back to that. 812, right? Future value, let's imagine that the price of wine stays the same. Just imagine that the price of wine stays the same. We bought 5 tokens of wine for $500 of their initial investment. The price of nothing happens over the next 30 days. Price doesn't move up or down. It stays pretty much the same. Or actually, let's say that the price moves down to $105 over the next 30 days at current APRs. Projected profit, 460%. ROI, 82%. That's insane, right? These are the types of numbers that you don't see anywhere else other than DeFi. Now, obviously, these are pretty realistic numbers. If we look at, and I say that with confidence because if we look at the price of Grape over the last date range, so we're at $1 somewhere around here, right? If we look at the price range here, so right about there. So Grape stayed at over $1 for 143 days, meaning that for 143 days, if we were to plug this in, look at those numbers. Now, the price of wine has changed, right? The price of wine wasn't always $112. Let's imagine that it was $85. And then the price is what it is today over the last 143 days. With an initial investment of $425, you would have made $12,000. That's insane. Now, again, this is very realistic. There's somebody who went into Grape Finance very early on and put this kind of money would be absolutely printing money out of their minds right now, because that's how much they were making on just the boardroom. That does not include the farm, doesn't include any of this, just the boardroom. That's crazy. If you guys think that's crazy, type a 1 in the chat for me, because I still can't believe how crazy this is. Like, sometimes I have a hard time knowing, like, I'm like, holy crap, like decentralized finance could do this for you. It's insane. Obviously, like everything has risks. You have to understand the risks. I'm not telling you, hey, go do this risk-free. No, it's not. There are risks. There are tons of risks with crypto, but understand that if you know your risk and you know how to hedge those risks, there's money to be made here.